right, we're here for Versus Live, second match of the day. We're going to have the winning mono blue list from Robert Wagner Krankel. He in turn copied that from Alexander Hain, and we actually used his list last week on a gauntlet, right?
He copied it from Versus Live, and then we copied it from Hain. There's a long chain of events there.
Sure, that's fair. Yeah, the short story we talked about already, the winning player from this past weekend in SCG, I don't know, Texas. There it is, dude. Every weekend is different. It's
Dallas,
so hard.
Fort Worth.
I'm everywhere.
Yep.
I haven't had a weekend off except for the pre-release this year.
I'm telling you, I've gotten the hashtag wrong twice. I've tweeted with the hashtag from the previous week's Open.
Anyway,
Don't
so
worry, I'm with
Robert Wagner Krankel used the mono blue list as provided by Versus Live, as provided by Alexander Hain.
We're great.
We're great. Yeah, well, Alexander Hain is really great.
Robert, I will send you my address. You can send me my 10% finder's fee.
Yikes.
At your earliest convenience.
He actually picked up the deck list because we were playing on Versus Live and because it looked so good and it was right up his alley. He ended up winning the whole thing, and that's just a pretty great story. During his winner's interview, I just heard the word Versus Live, and I was just like, and then so I'm going to be playing that in this second match that we have. What are you battling with on your side?
Playing Jonathan Job's Temur Drake's deck, a deck that he almost top-8'd with. He lost his winning in the final round of Swiss, but finished, I believe, in the top 16. Tiebreakers were probably good enough. It is the Drake's deck that we are familiar with. More controlling version. There's no Enigma Drake, just crackling. And we've got main deck Niv Mizzet, and then a light green splash for Hydroid Crisis as an additional big threat, and then some sideboard copies of Crushing Canopy, a nice versatile spell there. So this is going to be a little bit slower of a version. We've got a lot of cheap removal for this matchup, which is great, and then good blockers that can block all the flying creatures around. So Mystical Carrier will sometimes come up. That's how I dealt the last point in our match on camera of day one in game one, but Job was able to take the match in a close 3-gamer. This is a matchup that I do not think is very good for mono blue. This is a good block, although this version is not as bad for you as just a regular 8 Drakes version.
Sure.
Because I'm a little bit slower and you can take more advantage of that. But in this deck, has a lot of cheap removal with Lava Coil and Shock. And we've got some other options as a sideboard, Fiery Cannonade, things like that. And Crushing Canopy to take care of the larger creatures. And then we've got cheap counter spells and our own Spell Pierces and Dive Downs to interact with your interaction and sort of win these small counter wars so that we don't get tempoed out. Now, there is a concern here that I spend a lot of time spinning my wheels with charter courses and discoveries, but the reality is that the mono blue deck doesn't put you under a ton of actual pressure, so you have a little bit of time to cast those spells, as long as they're not assembling their most powerful cards, getting Tempest Djinn down.
With protection.
Yeah, with protection, or Curious Obsession on a creature with protection.
Right.
As long as you can keep those off the battlefield, you can take some hits from the other things. Terramander becomes a problem eventually, but on the first 4 or 5 turns, it's usually just a 1/1. So we've got a little bit of time to churn through our deck with that and then take over with more powerful threats. And then Niv Mizzet is almost unbeatable.
Yeah, I think that Niv Mizzet is the game breaker. If it ever enters the battlefield, I'm usually dead on the spot. For my side of things, like Ross said, I'm just going to be trying to hit hard and hit fast. If I ever have a draw that's 1-drop into protection plus a Curious Obsession, those are the nut draws, and the game is usually over because Ross doesn't have anything to really fight through that. He's going to need like 2 shocks on the same turn, maybe even like Spell Pierce plus shock will help do it. But if he's on the draw, it's lights out.
Yeah, and when you're going to see me tap out of my main phase often to kill threat. If Todd's tapped out, you might think like, oh, I'll hold that shock, and then they'll play their Obsession and I'll get the 2-for-1. No, don't get greedy. Just kill the creature. Because they're going to Curious Obsession. They're not going to Curious Obsession that thing into open mana unless they have a protection spell, and you're dead.
Yeah. All right, let's take 2 questions, then we'll get started if you have any.
I got 2 perfect questions for you.
Great.
First, Gosmit. This is about mono blue. What are the main reasons to play mono blue? Is it just because they have good draws or they have good matchups?
You have nut draws that are unbeatable, which not a lot of decks in the format can really say. You have, I think, whenever the card Spell Pierce is good, that's when you're going to see Izzet Drakes or Temur Drakes be good, or you're going to see mono blue shine. And right now, with a lot of people putting a big focus on Nexus of Fate, Esper Control, you're going to see cards like Spell Pierce just do a lot of heavy lifting where they might normally be bad in a format full of Azorius Aggro and Sultai midrange. So,
yeah, so the card Spell Pierce is really well positioned. It's really nice to have a deck that in its normal game plan, has a ton of main deck disruption for Nexus of Fate decks, so you don't have to go out of your way to beat those decks. Those matchups are quite good, especially the Gates versions. I think you're ahead against Sultai, but not by much, and I think you're pretty close against Esper, so that's a pretty good spectrum of matchups. You're weak to aggressive decks. We hadn't seen a lot of aggressive decks in the early weeks of the format. White just started coming up. And that matchup, I don't think it's very good, but it's winnable. You got a good sideboard, and Trancing Melody is really good in that matchup. So you have tools, even though you're a mono blue deck. Usually mono blue pretty bad at dealing with creatures, but this version has some good ways to do that. And Trancing Melody and Fairy Duelist are really impressive cards.
Yeah, I agree. All right, one more.
Last one. What from Jay Bernatsky? Yeah, I'm terrible at this.
It's okay.
What about using Rhythm of the Wild in the Temur Drake's deck?
People have asked something very similar to this before. I'll say this. If you want to make Rhythm of the Wild good, you need to play upwards of 30 creatures in your deck. And if you have fewer than 30 creatures, you need a damn good reason not to play that many. And this version has, what, 11? Maybe? 12?
8?
Yeah, not a lot.
No, 12. We got Terramander.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
11 or 12.
Like 12 creatures. Don't do that. Don't play.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're concerned about counter spells in particular, just play more Niv Mizzet. Things uncountable.
or more Spell Pierces.
And if you want to
Do you
give
have
it
a counter? Too
haste
bad.
or put a +1/+1 counter on it, that works way better with things that cost 1 and 2, not things that cost 6 and 7.
Yeah, Rhythm of the Wild is meant for a different style of deck. It doesn't really solve any issues the deck already has. Like, you're fine against opposing counter spells. You don't really need to give your creatures haste. Like, maybe it's cool with Crackling Drake, but that's about it.
All right, I'm keeping my hand. My hand's great. Let's battle. Yours keepable.
My hand's a little slow, but I think it's keepable.
All right. Well, I lost last round, so I'm going to be on the play. Your
Yep.
turn.
Okay, well, I like no 1-mana
Yeah.
creature here,
Lucky
so let's
you.
start on a Steam Vents.
Opt. Well, I don't like the extra land here, so I'm just going to bottom it. All right. Draw. Your turn.
I was going to say, you just didn't play a land. I was really confused. Okay, I have a Chart of Course. You have a
Resolves.
Merfolk Trickster.
I do.
What am I discarding here?
It's almost there.
So I definitely want to keep all
my
of
burn
these. This is sort of my plan for the following turn. And then I definitely need this other land, and so it's one of these other cards. We're definitely giving this one as just our best card in the matchup, or one of. Not sure how good this is going to be in this game. I am going to play a good number of spells here, but even then it's probably just worse than this. So I think we'll discard the Terramander.
Okay.
What do you got for me as a follow-up?
Attack for 2.
No Obsession. I like that.
Your turn.
And okay, well, I'm pretty glad I discarded that Terramander because I have another one here,
Okay.
and I'll pass the turn.
Play an opt.
Sure.
Bottom a Storm Tamer. Draw. Hey, Motobug. Play Trickster. Target this.
Yep.
Right. So I'm playing kind of weird here, and I'm going to explain why in a moment, but literally any word I say about the cards in my hand is going to give away a lot of stuff and kind of ruin the integrity of the game. So I'm just going to go to attacks.
Yep.
All right. Had you done a 14?
14.
I'm going to play a Chart of Course.
You got 4 in hand?
Yep.
I'm going to Spell Pierce your Chart Course.
I'll swap yours back.
Yep.
Draw 2. Your turn.
Just want to trade early and often as much as I can.
agree with that.
That was a good draw.
Okay.
Let's play a Crackling Drake and draw a card.
Yup.
And I guess now we can just attack pretty freely with this. Yeah, bring it to 19. Pass.
Yeah.
We got a
that's
2/4 here.
Not great for me.
Yeah, Crackling Drake hard for the mono blue deck to attack through. Just so
Quite.
big.
Quite.
Sorry, everyone in chat. I just turned on Cardboard Live. My bad.
You got 6 cards in your hand over there?
Yes. I'm in a little bit of trouble here, and it's possible I should have just played this draw way differently. But the way that Ross didn't have a 1-drop for turn 1 and just had Chart a Course on 2 just made me think that his hand was just full of shocks and stuff. And now that the game has kind of collapsed to a spot where I'm in a bit of trouble, I think it's important to talk about. So on turn 3, actually could have gone Obsession and had either Pierce or Retort backup. But if you have Lava Coil plus Pierce, I die. And I just lose on the spot. So my plan was to go Trickster Opt on 3, and then find a 4th land so I could go Obsession plus Pierce plus Retort. And I actually bottomed the land that I needed in order for that to happen. But it was before the texture of my hand had really come full circle. And I think that because this doesn't lose to shock when you're tapped out with the Charter Course, I think it's possible I should have just gone for this with 1 piece of protection up, and I think that I would have been a lot better off. He did have the Pierce, and I'm assuming you also have a coil. So I'm guessing that what I did was right, but me missing the land when I had everything kind of come together ended up being everything just kind of falling apart. So.
Yeah. Devise a sequence that depends on your 4th land, and then miss the 4th land, you're
attack.
Block.
Yep.
12.
All right, let's Chart a Course.
Yep. Todd just turning the Trickster into a random card here. Okay, well, with a million Siren Storm Tamers out,
So let's do this.
I don't think this card is getting any better.
Todd, you can put it up just a little bit up the playmat.
So I'm just going to coil a Storm Tamer here. That gets me 3. I will attack with Terramander.
So 18 to 12.
Yep. Cast a Chart a Course, drawing 2 cards. It's going to get me to 4 spells. And then play a Sulphur Falls and play another Terramander.
Yeah, and this is wow, that was a good draw.
You know this is a 4/4, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you got a dive down? Honestly, like that's fine. I'm fine trading this for a dive down. These Terramanders are going to be big now.
Yep.
So they'll just trade for it next turn.
Yeah, dude, I have no options here. I don't know what you want from me.
Shock myself to 10.
Yep.
And pass the turn. Actually, I guess I didn't need to do that. Let's stay at 12.
Okay. Attack. You win.
Block.
You win.
Have the dive down.
Yeah, I had to dive down too, but I don't get your Terramander off the battlefield on that spot. So, yeah, things just fell apart. Did you have Cool Pierce on 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was what I was expecting to happen because he didn't have the turn 1 opt or shock, and on turn 2 just cast Chart a Course. Like, and all that scenario, like, you know, he would have held up shock on 1, I think. If he had it, expecting me to have Trickster, I don't know. It was a really weird sequence. Like, he didn't have shock. He had to have Coil Pierce or just like an insanely bad draw. And my draw actually beats an insanely bad draw, but loses to that very specific sequence. And I don't know. I ended up losing to basically just Crackling Drake, though. And I missed out on having 1 extra card from the first Curious Obsession hitting you. So
yeah, my plan there was to play Hydroid Crisis there actually at 4 mana. And keep drawing card. I had Nimbus up my hand. I just wanted to get to 6 lands.
Right.
But I drew Crackling Drake, and that was just perfect for that turn.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take a quick break here while we just get our sideboards put together, and we'll be right back. All right. We're here for sideboarding, and I'm actually just going to let Ross sideboard my deck, because you played this last week, right?
I did. Played a very similar list.
You don't like Surge Mare against the Lava Coil Shock deck?
Ross, no day 2 man.
Not particularly.
Okay.
Surge Mare is there to be good against mostly aggressive decks. It's also pretty good against Sultai. But it's mainly there to block, and it doesn't do any blocking in this matchup, so I do not like it.
Okay. Do you like negates?
No.
Okay.
But,
so you actually literally played against Jonathan Job. How did you sideboard?
Well, my list was a little bit different. I had only 1 Deep Freeze. I had a 2nd Essence Capture, but I brought in these 4 cards. I didn't have a Blink of an Eye. I had another Dive Down, which I believe I cut anyway. I think what I did cut was some charts, It's pretty common. Like, I just didn't think I was going to win a long game against John, and so I didn't want to play that game as
Sure.
much.
That makes sense.
Because of the presence of Niv Mizzet. So I trimmed on charter courses, and then because you have Melody, you can trim a threat, and Herald is usually the worst one. So I think this is what I would do.
Okay, sounds good. Always listen to the person who has more experience with the archetype.
Okay. And on my side, Dive Down is pretty bad from my side of the matchup. I'm not that worried about Todd interacting with my threats. He does have a few ways to do so, but not a lot. So this is a card that can languish in your hand. And then I'm cutting Terramander in part because I don't want to be that aggressive early. I want to interact. This does like block a 1/1, but only if Todd attacks into me with it. And it's pretty poor with my own fiery cannonades that I'm bringing in.
And I think as the game goes longer, it's actually worse than any of your other threats. And usually you want to trim down on threats when you become this more controlling side of things.
So I do think it's the worst threat.
I think people really get hung up on things like Dive Down and Spell Pierce countering these kind of more expensive removal spells. Like, it's a real feel bad when your Vraska's Contempt or your Entrancing Melody gets KO'd by a 1-mana spell. But at the same time, I think your goal from any kind of mid-range or controlling matchup is to overload those Dive Downs and those Vraska's Contempts and just run them out of them. And the more overall removal you have, especially removal that can take care of things like Tempest Gen and other creatures, like I think it's just important to have all of it as opposed to trying to be selective about which types of removal you try to interact with the mono blue player.
Yeah. Granted, I did die to John Job with 7 islands and Entrancing Melody in hand against a Niv Mizzet, but
It's gonna happen.
yeah.
All right, a couple questions.
Sounds good to me. The other Steve. What does Ross think? Temur versus Izzet Drakes. What do you think is the better deck? Is the splash of green worth the decrease in consistency?
I mean, so where I think the green helps you a lot is in mid-range matchups like Sultai. Krace is just a really powerful card when they're stripping you of resources as the game goes long, and this deck is going to use it to set up Crackling Drake or Niv Mizzet plus Dive Down and take over the game with something like that, and you need the extra cards to find all the pieces there and all the land drops. So I think Krasis helps a lot in that matchup, also quite good against control. So it's clear that John was building to beat those sorts of matchups. Where the green splash hurts you a lot is against Nexus decks that don't really care about the added card advantage. They care about what interaction you have. Yes, green gives you Crushing Canopy to blow up Wilderness Reclamation, but if you look at John's sideboard, he doesn't have any copies of Negate. He's got 2 Disdainful Strokes. He's got some Spell Pierces in the main. This deck doesn't have a great clock because he's cut Enigma Drake. You do have Terramander, but that's about it. That's not so. Yeah, it's a give and take. Like there are matchups where the green makes you better, matchups where the green makes you worse. Probably makes you a little bit worse against the aggressive decks too. I think against mono blue and mono white. But if you need to beat up on Esper and Sultai, which were the 2 most popular decks the week before, then it's a good choice, and they were still popular in this tournament. So it's not clear if it's not that the one is objectively better. It's just better in certain matchups, worse in others. If the metagame shifts now more towards aggression and away from Esper and Sultai, then I would go back to Izzet.
All right, take a look at your hand.
Yeah, this is a keeper, but it's an awkward one.
I have mulligan to 6. I will keep my 6 though.
How did you scry?
Top.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Oh,
right.
no.
Let's go, Miscloaked Herald. Your turn.
We did it.
What did you do?
We drew him out.
Oh, that's lucky.
That was good.
Tilt. All right.
No one told Todd.
Your turn.
That's pretty good, too. Okay. Think I need to save this, so let's spend this turn playing a Discovery. Surveil 2. Yeah, I like both of those, so that can stay there.
All right. Let's go Curious Obsession.
That's
That's
not
2,
good.
draw a card.
18.
Go.
We are in danger.
I'm in danger.
Trancing Melody that.
Retort it.
Pass the turn.
Draw for turn. Go attack for 2. You go
16.
to 16. I'll draw a card. Now I'll play Tempest Gen. Say go. Now we've presented Ross with 2 very large threats that he has to beat.
Shock to 14.
Okay.
Coil the Storm Tamer. Coil the Tempest.
Come on, man.
Okay,
Fine.
that went well.
Go.
Hydroid Crisis, X equals 2, draw a card.
Sure.
And I go to 15, pass a turn. A little flood over there.
Go.
No melody, no nothing. What's going on? Attack for 2.
18.
Crackling Drake.
Counter it.
You can go.
Go.
Attack for 2.
16.
Crackling Drake.
Resolves.
Draw a card.
Yep.
Pass the turn.
All right. Steal your Crackling Drake. I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 4, 4.
Crushing Canopy, my Crackling Drake.
Okay.
Attack for 2.
14.
Pass the turn.
Cards in hand.
4.
Trancing Melody or Hydroid Crisis. Go.
Yep.
You have so many cards in hand still.
I have been missing land drops.
I haven't been missing that many.
Also, 2 of my cards cantered.
Curious Obsession.
Fiery Cannonade.
Blizzard Retort.
Oh no.
Oh no!
Oh yeah. Oh no.
Sure.
Curious Obsession.
I'll spell pierce that one.
All right. Attack for 3. I'll draw a card. Put you to 12.
Yep.
Go.
That was probably a bad spell pierce because now I've left this vulnerable. Did you draw something good?
Spell Pierce.
Oh god.
Oh.
Every single I told you I spewed off multiple times last
Yes.
weekend and lost every time because of
Yeah.
it. Every single time I spewed, it was a spell pierce that I
Good.
spewed. Every time.
Well, stop.
Every time?
I'm gonna opt on my main phase.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll draw that one.
Okay. All right. Opt on my turn.
Yep.
Bottom. Hit you for 3. I'll draw a card.
I'm a 9.
Land. Go.
Just a pyramid of islands over there.
3/3 Crisis, draw a card, gain a life.
Sure. You're at 10.
10. Pass the turn.
Attack for 3.
Block.
Dive down it. Go.
Opt.
Yep.
Bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Pass the turn. Upkeep. Crushing Canopy, the Crisis.
Draw for turn.
Okay.
Go.
We are out of the woods. Shock to 8.
No, you're not. That doesn't cast it.
4/4 Crisis, draw 2, gain 2.
Counter it, I guess. You
With
still
10.
draw 2. This is
Pass
the
the
part
turn.
where Hydrocrisis just buries you because even though I have to counter it because it's a giant flood, your turn. It's just too much. Mountain Niv,
Yep.
you win.
Okay. Small mistake there, but my hand was powerful enough to overcome it, and Todd definitely flooded pretty badly.
All right, third game. Let's go. Questions?
Ross, looking back at your tournament, do you regret your choice of taking Mono Blue this last weekend? Also, what do you think of Mono U going forward with the deck die back down or with just a good meta call deck?
No, I think Mono Blue is actually just one of the better decks. I was very happy playing it. I mean, my teammate Tannen made the top 8 with the exact same 75. So we played the same list, and I just spewed off too many spell pierces and got punished every time. I guess it was 2 spell pierces and 2 Merfolk Tricksters over the course of 2 tournaments that I spewed. Cost me 3 games that I think I would have won otherwise. And 2 of them were in 3-game matches, and the other one was a 2-0. So I've got a shot at winning game 3 there. You know, if I beat Job in round 5 or whatever, stay 5-0. Who knows what happens from there? I just need to play better. I definitely didn't draw great. I didn't trigger a lot of Curious Obsessions, but the deck is surprisingly good even when you don't get the nut draws, so to speak. Terramander is a really big addition. This is a card that functions with your obsession draws being a cheap evasive creature that late in the game is a fine top deck. So you're not just drawing 1/1s on turn 6 every time. You'll draw a 3-mana 5/5 flyer.
Yep.
So I think Terramander was a really big addition for that. But it just straddles both modes and plays a very important role in the deck. But I think it'll definitely stick around to be a contender at the Mythic Championship in Cleveland in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I have drawn my opening hand, but we'll take one more while you're still shuffling.
Real quick, do you think the traditional Is It Drake's deck has more trouble with bigger decks or with smaller decks?
It definitely has trouble with the wide aggressive decks.
No, that's certainly true. I think that has more to do with cards like History of Benalia, just kind of, and just an abundance of 1-drops just kind of overwhelm your spot removal, and because you don't have many sweepers at all. Like most of the Is It decks don't actually play Cannonade in the sideboard. And Jonathan Job actually moved to Cannonade because his deck plays a much better long game, and he just needs to get to the point where he can cast something like Niv Mizzet or Hydroid Gracis. So, that's one of the reasons why I like Job's build. It actually is able to function as a control deck much more easily.
Yep, and that certainly helps you out in those matchups, but it makes you a lot worse against Nexus, as we said. Is it's going to be better in those matchups, has more counterspells in the sideboard.
And Enigma Drake is just such a huge hitter. So.
Yeah, and a much better clock. So that, again, that's the difference.
All right, my hand's really good.
So is mine.
All right, your turn.
I got a shock.
This sigh.
Sulfur Falls, pass the turn. And a turn, I'll opt.
Mm-hmm.
And don't need another land, so bottom that one. And let's chart a course.
I'm just going to counter it. His hand might just not be that functional without it, so...
I'll shock to 18, pass the turn.
Weird. Go.
And a turn, I'll opt.
Yep. So you're at... Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh, we can keep that one.
I didn't play Temur last turn. I probably should have.
Lava Coil your Jin.
Yeah. I was trying to just
Pass the
wait till
turn.
the 4th mana, but I drew another creature to play, so I wanted to use my mana a little more efficiently, but I'll go ahead and play Terramander and say go.
Okay, opt on your end step.
Sure.
Don't want that one. Looking for an answer to this Terramander, although it's still going to be a 1/1 for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm okay with that then. Let's spew off this Crisis early and get a blocker down for it. Deal with Terramander that way and draw a card, gain a life.
Mm-hmm.
A 19. Pass the turn.
I'll play an opt.
That's fine. Now, we're not under any pressure. We've made our land drops. We can cast all our spells, and we've got plenty of ways to dig towards what we need based on what Todd does in the ensuing turns, so feeling pretty good right now. Obsession resolves. Block.
Your turn.
And a turn, I'll opt.
Sure.
Yep, we'll keep that one.
Your turn.
Question from the director, me.
What's up?
I see you've been using Dive Down a lot in combat more.
Yep.
Is it correct to try to use it as much as you can in combat, or do you try to save it for removal spells?
I mean, try to save it for removal spells if you can, but like in spots where I just need to get his blocker off the battlefield, Dive Down's actually a great way to do that with Tempest Gen as well as just larger creatures.
Spell Pierce.
You win. I haven't won a game today, so I'm not feeling super good about myself. I don't know. Someone give me compliments. Give me compliments. Make me feel better.
Roll Todd.
There's like a 10-second delay or whatever, so it's going to be a second before they come in, if they're coming in. But
Absolutely.
holy crap!
I mean, I was pretty sure that matchup was going to be...
No, we're playing again.
Oh.
We're playing one more game.
Oh, sorry.
It's fine. We're playing one more game. I got to win one. Okay.
One more game.
When we got another match to play,
I'm going to sideboard how I want to sideboard and not how Ross told me to sideboard.
Wow. Okay, so all at once, people love your hair. And I mean everybody.
Nice.
Hair, quote, on point, looking fresh.
I'm just boarding how I want to board. And then I'm going to not take... I mean, Ross did go, 4-3 with the deck?
Over the course of the weekend, 4-3 in the Open, 5-3 in the Classic. I went 9-6. I went 1-3 against Drake's deck.
Recognize that's inappropriate.
All right, 2 D-Freeze coming out. I'm going to put those charter courses back
Love
in.
your commentary, Todd.
Oh, thank you. Keep them coming.
Hey, Todd, at least you don't lose against DNT playing elves. I don't know what that means.
Oh, no, we do, though. So that's it's okay.
You might be the only one.
Yeah.
You must be new here.
All right, I'm just going to straight up concede to Niv Mizzet and not care about it, because if he casts it on 6, I can't win anyway. If I have a deep freeze or whatever, that just means I have a deep freeze in my hand for the first 20 turns. I'm going to bring in Surge Mare as a way to dodge a lot of the removal, as well as just be able to potentially attack through a creature with 4 toughness. I brought back in Charter Course as a way to just not have to run into Cure Obsession early. And I cut Merfolk Trickster because I hate it. And I brought back in the Merfolk, the unblockable one. Sorry, Miss Cloak Tarot. More compliments. Yeah, just look.
The shape of your head is unique.
That is does not sound like a compliment. That does not. All right, I'm keeping.
I'm thinking.
Uh-oh. Our frames are...
I don't think you can keep a hand like this in this matchup, because if you miss, you just get way too punished. And this hand isn't even that great if I hit. That's pretty good if I do, actually. I got multiple pieces of interaction, my best card to follow everything up, but I need to hit a lot of lands with this hand.
So it's the verdict, Chief.
I'll keep.
All right, Miss Cloak, go.
Island go.
Hey,
Sounds
no
like
shot.
we have some lag, frame lag. So keep playing, and I will figure this out. Okay.
Curious Obsession.
Spell Pierce.
Spell Pierce.
Tilt. Have the
Attack
Spell
for-
Pierce and not the dive down.
2 draw.
At 18.
Your turn.
Well, we need to hit now. Opt.
Yep.
Well, since the compliments started to
Shock myself, shock your thing.
the stream's okay.
All right.
We hit. So we get to play a game now. 16 to 20.
Your turn. All right, so we're going to lead with Surge Mare Terramander after getting shocked, but I think basically the Curious Obsession drew a card, Spell Pierce traded for Pierce, and Mistcloak traded for Shock, so we're not down on card economy, and we have 2 potential threats on the battlefield right now.
Shock to 14 and coil the Terramander.
He's dead.
Pass the turn.
All right, Curious Obsession on the Surge Mare.
That's pretty good.
I'm going to attack for... Yeah, I'm going to pump, so you're going to take 3.
Go to 11.
And I'm going to draw 1 from the Obsession first, and then I'm going to draw 1 for the Surge Mare and discard. Discard Storm Tamer and say go.
And Eternal Opt.
Sure.
Just looking for any land, and there it is.
So now he's going to land Entrancing Melody me.
Yep. Shock to 9.
I think this
drawn a
just
bunch of
falls off. So.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works, right?
Yeah.
So, well, it falls off at your end step because you still control the Obsession.
Okay, well, I'm not going to attack next turn, so it's going to fall
Yeah.
off. All right.
But if you had another melody... Oh, but if you could attack with... Yeah, if you can keep attacking, I think it stays there.
I don't...
So I'm
but I
nine?
can't attack this turn, so
Yeah,
it's going to fall off.
Well,
But
if you... Yeah, even if you're melodying back.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm just going to make sure. It says, whenever Chain creature gets +1 has, whenever it steals coming to play, draw a card. And it says, at the beginning of your upkeep, or beginning of your end step, if you didn't attack with a creature's turn, it dies.
Okay, give it back.
Okay. Go. I do think what's happening in all these games is actually it's indicative of what it happens pretty often. I'm going to block.
So you have a dive down.
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, that block is fine because I just wanted to chart course.
Okay, go.
Pass.
Attack.
At
for
5.
4. I do at 11. Did I miss
I
something?
shocked the other.
Okay.
I've shocked 3 times this game.
Go.
Crisis, draw 2, gain 2.
Sure.
I'm at 7.
Okay.
Pass the turn.
Attack.
Block.
Dive down. I know Tim's Jen. Your turn. You're 3.
3.
I think you're dead unless you got super good off that crisis.
No, we got outs.
Okay. I really just want to be able to do something and hold up my essence capture ever.
The third Tempest Gin is going to get us.
Yes.
Maybe I should have played Niv last turn instead of 4/4 Crisis, but I thought I needed some life. Like if I'm at
I was going to attack
I'm at
and
5,
dive down.
yeah. If I'm at if I'm at 5 and Niv I just die to a land.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so I can't play Niv Mizzet, and I get to draw some cards. But yeah, I just need to draw a second cannonade.
Ah.
And then I had to, but instead I have these. And that only deals with 2. These 3 cards deal with 2 Drakes or 2 Gins. So the third one.
Put a win up there on the board for me, would you?
And
Yeah, sorry, we
there it
were
is.
dropping frames hard. So
Okay.
your win was very choppy.
I'm at 3. Yeah, so I can't play 2/2 Crisis and Coil. That still puts me at 4, and then I die exactly. I can't opt in anything, right?
Do you have a land?
No, I don't have the 7th land. That's the problem.
Okay.
I just do the Coil. Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty close. All right. Well, because we're having issues, we're just going to go ahead and call it for the second match, and we're going to get set up for the third one. If you have any questions and you can hear me, make sure to add
I can hear
SCG
you.
Tour with any comments in the chat, and our director Taylor is going to pick his faves, and we'll ask them before we start our next match. Anyway, we're going to take a short break here while we get that set up. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.